Today has been an interesting day. It's been very interesting. I've had some problems, had some things I've had to deal with. I'm a little bit nebulous. I'm a little bit tired. It's later in the day, and normally I do my stuff early, which is how I prefer to do things. That having been said, let me go ahead and get on with what I was going to say in this video, because I think it's pretty important. If you truly believe that people like me vote for or support the folks we do as a matter of party, let me tell you now, you're badly confused. I no more support people strictly on the basis of party than I do on the platform of race, sex, or sexual preference, or however you want to term that. If you're confused, let me help to enlighten you. I'm about ideas. I'm about what people actually support with their time and effort. Ideology, ideals, however you might want to look at that. I believe that if I found a Democrat who was more amenable to the ideas typically ascribed to the almost always more right-leaning Republican, or even than a opponent who is a libertarian, you can be pretty sure I would be more interested in that individual. Fact is, this is almost never the case. Hello and welcome to the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt. Glad to be with you today. It is Monday, the 8th of February of 2021. Thanks for joining me on Rumble, on the podcast, and on YouTube. And the subject of today's little video is party's never the point. It's true that many who claim to be conservative are at best conservative light. That said, there's still a better choice than someone who's not even close. Here's the thing. Here's what I'm trying to get across, and here's what I want for you to understand. I support who I do on the basis of ideology. I do not support who I do because they have an R or libertarian or independent or whatever after their name. And what that means is you can make your own little party, whatever you call it. It really doesn't make any difference. I'm not going to support it unless you support the ideals and the ideologies that I count reasonable, proper, and so forth. I hear people all the time saying, oh, you just believe that because that person is a Republican. No, if I vote Republican, if I support Republican, if I talk about Republicanism as a good idea, is because I support certain ideas, ideals, a certain ideology, and that is what drives me. What ends up happening as a result is I end up finding myself more supporting people on the right than people on the left. I only go so far to the right. I believe government should exist. I believe it should exist. You have to have government. There are those who would tell you that all government meddles in your life and it's a bad thing. There are those who play the anarcho-capitalist game, and I'm not among them. I know some people who do, and quite frankly, I even respect some of them as solid thinkers. That having been said, I don't agree with certain of the perspectives that they hold, and among them are things that they think about human nature. I think that you have to have a certain amount of regulation, a certain amount of control. I don't think it has to be huge, but I think you have to have it. And this is the reason that I tend to support a sort of closer to Republican, maybe a sort of a slightly more left-leaning libertarian. That is to say, not very right-leaning. If you consider that, for example, communism is supposed to be about the abolishment of real government with the idea that the people rule themselves, I got news for you. I don't support communism either. Obviously, I don't support people who want to weigh heavily upon the populace at large. So if you happen to be very strong on the idea of large amounts of government in society, well, you and I disagree. You can pretty much be assured that that's the case. The point is, though, of all of this, it's never about party. Party's never the point. What it's about is the ideology that a given individual holds and whether or not I agree with that individual on the ideology he or she does in fact hold. If you hold a viewpoint that I don't agree with, I don't care if you're right-leaning or left-leaning, we're not going to get along very well. And as far as it goes, if you think that I'm going to support you politically, if you hold an ideology where you want to stomp on people's rights or where you want to go anarchist, I just want you to know right now, you're pretty much out of luck when it comes to somebody like me, because I don't support either perspective, right? I support a perspective where government occurs at the lowest level, where government exists because I believe it must, but where government is as small as it can possibly be, so that we minimize the amount of uh, uh, you know leadership, rulership, whatever you want to say, and so that we reduce the level at which it occurs. So federal government to me should be quite small, which means right now the government that we have at a federal level is far too large. But let's just get something straight, like I say, and this is what I want for you to understand and get as an understanding. I can't speak for anybody on the left because I'm not left leaning. I'm sorry, I'm just not. But I can speak for people on the right, and I will, and allow me to do so for a certain number of them, certainly, and tell you that most of us were not about towing some party line. And that's why when Donald Trump came around, there were a lot of people who said, yeah, now this is more like what I'm looking for. Because they looked at what he was supporting and they said, yep, this is the sort of thing that we're expecting to see. Now I'm going to point out something rather interesting. You've heard me talk about a fellow that I pay a little bit of attention to, whose name naturally right now is escaping me, but he counts himself left leaning, right? Tim Pool. Tim will tell you that he's left leaning. Yet if you ask him, so Tim, did you vote for Donald Trump in the last election, the one that he lost? He'll tell you, yep, sure did. And if you ask Tim, why did you do that? You'll hear him say things like, well, he did this that I liked, and that I liked, and this that I liked. And this is one of the reasons that I can respect a person like Tim. Because whether we agree on ideology or not, Tim thinks about what he wants, looks to see whether or not that thing is presented to him, and that is what he's going to vote for. Okay? This, in my mind, is a very right-leaning perspective. Whether Tim counts himself right-leaning is beside the point. It's a very right-leaning perspective in my viewpoint, in my perspective. So if you think that I will necessarily have a problem with you because you vote your values, you're mistaken. The problem that I see is that there are a lot of people who will vote for a guy because he has a D after his name. Or worse yet, will vote for a guy because a bunch of people talk his opponent down, or won't vote for a guy because a bunch of people talk that individual down and decide that that individual is a bad or problematic individual. Look at people. Watch what they do. What they say is okay to look at. It's not entirely unimportant, but it's not super important if they don't live the values that they claim to have. When people tell you, oh, I'm this, oh, I'm that, if you can't look at their history and go, yeah, you know what? No, they're not. Or, yeah, okay, that, yes, they are. Then it doesn't really matter what they said. But I'm going to say this again. Just because a person has an R after their name, just because a person happens to be libertarian leaning in their perspectives, does not mean, well, that's not true, because actually that does mean that I will support them to some degree. As long as they're within the ideologies that I count proper, appropriate, and acceptable, those are the people that I will vote for. But a person who says, oh, I'm a Republican, just because they say I'm a Republican doesn't mean I'm going to support them. Just because they say I'm a libertarian doesn't mean I'm going to support them. Even if they say I'm a Republican and they say I'm a libertarian and they tend to have, excuse me, a lot of the traits of Republicans and libertarians, doesn't mean that there aren't other people that I will support instead of those individuals. I want to apologize for just a second because I know that I started off kind of slow today. But I really want for people to understand this. I titled this piece, Party's Never the Point, because it isn't. Party's not the point. Ideology, viewpoint, perspective, what you support, not just with your words, but with your actions, that is the point, in my opinion. Okay, I need to wrap this up. It is, as I say, Monday, the 8th of February, 2021. That means tomorrow will be Tuesday, the 9th of February, 2021. Hope to see you again when I do a daily summation then, which I hope to be able to do, and maybe even do it a little bit earlier than I was able to today. I wanted to, again, thank all of those folks who are visiting me on Rumble, on the podcast, and on YouTube. And I want to hope tell you that I hope that your day was a good one and hope that you're having a good week so far. I know you're just beginning your work week if you're anything like me, so I know that there's going to be a little while for you to figure out whether the week is a good one or a bad one. I'm having minor problems, but that's life. All right, again, I'm going to wrap things up, so hope everything is going well for you, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video was recorded on Monday, the 8th of February of 2021. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that. And you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S, .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.